I guess just introduce yourself and tell us what you do at Steve's Action Games.
I'm Andrew Hackard. I'm the Munchkin line editor. Sometimes you'll see me referred to as the Munchkin Czar because we're at Games and we like to have fun. I've been doing that for 10 years now. Before that, I was an editor. I was the managing editor. I've been with Steve since April of 2000. So coming up on 19 years next week.
Wow, that's a pretty long stint.
Freelanced for part of that, was on staff for most of it.
Awesome. And so you're the lead editor for Munchkin,
right?
For those of us that haven't played Munchkin yet,
I don't know where you've been, but Munchkin came out in 2001, and it is the card game of role playing without all the role playing that slows everything down. Our tagline is "Kill the monster, steal the treasure, stab your buddy."
Nice.
So you are trying to be the first player to reach level 10 by going through killing monsters, stealing treasure, finding cool stuff. We have cards that are just straight up go up a level cards, things like wash the GM's car, buy the GM pizza, excessive slaughter,
super tongue-in-cheek.
Absolutely serious game. I don't know what you're talking about. It started off in 2001, right after D&D 3rd Edition came out, and it's an affectionate parody, we like to say, because we're all gamers. We all play D&D. We love the game, and there's room to poke some fun at it. And we had John Kavalik, who is our artist, worked with us on Shea Geek, has worked with us on other projects through the years, and he gets it absolutely. He draws a comics called Dork Tower,
right,
which is a perfect match for the Munchkin style of play. So Steve's jokes, John's art made for a game that was a runaway success at Gen Con 2001. We sold, not only did we sell out, we had to overnight ship more, and we sold those. And that's when we knew maybe this is going to be bigger than we thought it was going to be. And it's been going strong ever since. We've got something like 25, maybe up to 30 core varieties of Munchkin now. So you've got Star Munchkin with science fiction, Munchkin Cthulhu because all gamers love Cthulhu. The most recent one that just came out is Munchkin Warhammer 40,000. It's a collaboration with Games Workshop where we're taking the Warhammer 40,000, which is in its 8th edition, is a favorite tabletop miniature pushing game of millions of gamers, and we're pulling it into Munchkin. And GW has been just wonderful to work with. They sent me a big box of Warhammer books, which was a lovely thing to have in my office for a while.
I bet.
And we've got a couple of expansions for that coming out later this year, a couple of accessories. We've got a combat counter, we've got a dice set, and we just announced last month at the Gamma trade show, that we're going to be doing Munchkin Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which is their sort of 40K is their science fiction setting. Age of Sigmar is more traditional fantasy. And that's going to be out late this year. We're shooting right now for November.
Nice.
So, and I think I can safely say we'll plan to continue that one in 2020.
Very nice. So what is probably the most unusual version of Munchkin that you've had the chance to work on?
Oh, wow. I'm going to give two answers. Our very first licensed Munchkin set was Munchkin Axe Cop. And
wow.
If your readers, viewers are not familiar with Axe Cop, back in about 2010, 2011, a cartoonist named Ethan Nicole had a brother, Malachi, who was at the time 5 years old. And Malachi started spitting out these stories that Ethan would illustrate. And it was all about an axe cop. And he was called that because he's a cop who had an axe. And had all these crazy adventures. And there was, his friends were Fluke Cop and Dinosaur Soldier and all sorts of things. So we actually licensed the property and made a Munchkin set based on that, which Steve had a blast writing.
Oh, I bet.
It was sort of like, all the people who are like, Munchkin is for babies. Well, this was a 5-year-old's version of what Munchkin could be, it turned out. Steve also last year, a game that is at Barnes & Noble right now but should be going wide later this year, Steve came in one day and said, I want to do a Munchkin about cooking. Kitchen shows are big.
Wow.
I thought, okay, but Munchkin Crazy Cooks was his design. It's the elves, dwarves, and halflings, except they're not in the dungeon, they're in the kitchen, and they're learning to be short order cooks or French chefs or barbecue grill masters. And so all of your monsters are food items. And you can actually collect food tokens to level up that way, as well as just the normal ways in Munchkin. That set turned out, I will be honest, a lot more fun than I thought it might be just from the premise. But it turns out Steve likes food. So those have been fun to work on. Steve and I collaborated on a couple of sets featuring a little wizard named Moop, whose Moop's thing is he likes to mash things together. So you have things like the chimpanzee zebra, the boomerangatang, just that's the level of humor. The way I described it at the time was, this is the home for all the Munchkin cards that were too stupid for the other Munchkin sets.
Right on.
So it's been we've been branching out. We've had a lot of fun. I've written some based on Oz because Munchkins. I mean, it took us 12, 13 years to get around to it, but we finally did. Did one based on Grimm fairy tales. Recently, we put one up. I say recently; it's been a couple of years. Called Spell School, which has no relation to any other Wizard Academy sorts of things you might have heard of. None at all.
Nice.
But it's been fun. We do a lot of expansions for the sets as well. So if you really like our fantasy game, you can go pick up Munchkin 2, Unnatural Acts, Munchkin 3, Clerical Errors, all the way down to the newest one is Munchkin 9, Jurassic Snark. Steve wrote that, and we put it out late last year. And they're all designed to blend together. So if you want to do a science fiction fantasy crossover, you just shuffle the decks together.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that.
Sometimes you have to do a little brain stretching to make it work, but the mechanics are basically the same.
So you've obviously made a bunch of different versions of Munchkin.
Sure.
This is a kind of a two-part question. What games outside of Steve Jackson games do you find yourself playing these days, and what do you think may have helped influence some of your writing?
So first of all, there are no games outside Steve Jackson games.
I realize you're contractually obligated to say that. Yes.
I have a regular Thursday night game group. Some of the guys are going to be here this weekend, and we've been real heavy into the legacy games lately. Mm-hmm. So we just finished up Eon's End Legacy. We've got a group that's been playing Pandemic Legacy. We also really like the Betrayal games, Betrayal at House on the Hill, Betrayal at Baldur's Gate.
Betrayal Legacy.
We're trying to get that one to the table.
Gotcha.
That's a slightly different group. I'm in a regular D&D game. One of our guys is driving down from Dallas, so it's kind of whenever he can make it down, and we're all free.
Gotcha.
But we try to play as often as we can, which is usually about once every other month.
5th edition?
5th edition.
5th edition. Excellent.
So 5th edition is the way I said it is. It's the edition I wanted in college when 2nd edition came out.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I hadn't played D&D but sporadically over the years since 2nd edition, and when I decided to let D&D back into my heart last year, I was pleasantly surprised by 5th edition and how accessible it was and how much fun it was.
Sure. So I played in a 4th edition game for a while.
I did too.
See, I had a blast, but then I work on Munchkin, so it appealed to that side of me.
Well, I was also heavily into video games at the time.
Sure.
And so it appealed to that side of me too. So
I tried 3rd edition. It wasn't for me.
Yeah, it was a little too rules chunky.
Which is ironic because we have a Munchkin Pathfinder and Munchkin Starfinder now.
Right.
So I have a lot of those books in PDF that the nice folks at Paizo sent me. It was like, this is a lot of fun to read for the backstory. I don't think I planned.
Yeah. Now, I believe they're coming out with a new edition of Pathfinder.
They are. In fact, I saw the early draft of the playtest rules. Looks to be kind of different.
I'm interested in checking that out too.
It is. They've redone the action economy, and I really like what they've done with that.
Okay. All right, back to Steve Jackson games.
Back to Steve Jackson games and Munchkin. What influences my writing? Anything that I can get my hands on. I was for the Warhammer games. I've written now north of 500 cards for the various sets that I've worked on,
Oh, wow.
and that doesn't count the unannounced ones yet. So a lot of that was just research, reading all the materials, talking to people who played the game and said, if you were going to make fun of Warhammer, what would you say? Somebody's coming, so. But other things, it's just listening and being open to, we do a lot of jokes that are based on splinterisms, transposing sounds. So if I hear somebody do something with them, I'm like, that making fun of Munchkin card, could I have fun with it? A lot of it's just knowing gamers and knowing the sorts of things that we all do that none of us want to admit to, like, let's erase that number on the character sheet. Oh, I bumped the table, so I guess I got to re-roll my die, that sort of thing. And Steve's always been a great influence, of course. He created Munchkin. He wrote all the games for the first 9-10 years of Munchkin's existence. And even now, everything I do runs through Steve for a, is this funny, is this Munchkin check.
Gotcha. Last question.
Sure.
Has there ever been a Munchkin card that you've written that the joke was just too obscure?
Oh, God, yes. So,
and didn't make it into the game, or did make it into the game?
Did.
Yeah.
Certainly, there are ones that I've written that Steve came back and said, I think it's funny, no one's going to get it. Or worse, I don't know what you're trying for here. And some of those are, Steve, this one's not for you, this is for the fans of this property. But sometimes it's, nope, you're right. The very first big expansion I wrote was Munchkin 8, which the fans actually named. We couldn't come up with a name we liked. Mm-hmm. And then we said, so we told the fans, we're publishing a Munchkin that introduces the new races, centaurs and lizard guys. We're holding a naming contest. Somebody come up with a name, we'll give you credit, we'll send you some free swag. And the name that somebody came up with was Half Horse Will Travel.
Nice.
So that was my first real foray into, okay, I have to write 100-something cards. I'd done a couple of the little ones, the 15-card expansions. Mm-hmm. And by and large, I did okay with that. There was one that I think I would like a do-over on. There's one that I would like a do-over on because, one, I misquoted someone, and two, I think the joke is a little... There's a card called Lord Tennis Anyone. And the poem I thought I was quoting Ulysses, I quoted somebody completely else.
Oh, man.
But it's a funny joke. It says the centaur cannot hold, which means the centaur's not allowed to use hand items in that fight.
Right.
But that's not Tennyson.
No, it isn't.
So I would love a do-over on that card, but so far no one has called me on it.
Wow. All right.
So I guess they're being very polite.
And how long has it been?
It's been about 8 years.
Wow. Okay.
So,
all right. Okay.
So I guess I got away with it, but I'm fencing up here.
It's a Gaming Trend exclusive right here.
There have been a few cards over the years that I'm like, that one just didn't quite land the way that I wanted to. Sometimes, though, our artists and we've been working with John, as I mentioned, since the beginning. Mm-hmm. We've actually expanded our stable now. We're working with quite a few very talented artists because John's got a lot on his plate, and we're trying to do more than he can provide for us.
Right.
The clone is not mature yet, so. But sometimes the artist can save what I'll call a mediocre joke.
Nice.
Sometimes the card is written with the art in mind. It's like, and I'll have to tell playtesters, this card isn't funny by itself. When you see the art, you'll understand what we're going for here.
Got it.
So that's part of the thing too, is I get to go around Austin playtesting, showing new cards to people, and sometimes the feedback I get is, this is really lame. You should change this.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're the audience, so I sort of have to listen.
Yeah.
Even when it wounds me.